In our last episode, we were brought to Dr. Baker's hideout, his freak factory, where he was in the process of operating on Gully Foyle, attempting to remove the tattoos from his face. We met Jisbella's friend, Sam Quatt, who helped abet their flight from the authorities. Gully, while still awake and in surgery, tried to negotiate the use of Sam's space vessel to recover what was left on the Nomad, but because he couldn't bring himself to disclose what he was after, failed to make a deal. After Baker finished the procedure on Gully, he told Sam and Jisbella that he would back Foyle's salvage project. Baker explained that Foyle was unable to keep his secret once under anesthesia, and revealed that he expected to recover $20 million in platinum bullion. Sam was irate to hear this. So was Jisbella. Foyle hadn't told her either. Just then, Foyle was wheeled out of surgery with a head covered in bandages. But just as they were about to confront Foyle about his deception, there was an explosion that took out one wall of the building. Dagenham's forces were raiding Baker's lair. Everyone was forced to flee for their lives. Baker jaunted out immediately, leaving his collection to fend for themselves. Foyle couldn't jaunt yet due to the anesthesia, but dug some eye holes into the bandages to see his way. Jisbella, Sam, and Foyle tried to find their way out, away from Dagenham's soldiers. Jisbella and Foyle found their way to the back of the building. Sam, unable to jaunt due to injury and trying to escape the attack, fell to her death. Jisbella went to her corpse in shock and mourning. Foyle, now more awake, prodded Jisbella to jaunt, and with great effort managed to jaunt himself. They jaunted their way to Montauk. Gully continued to prod Jisbella, this time to help locate Sam's spaceship nearby. He revealed to her that he took Sam's keys off her corpse so they could take the ship with no trouble. Jisbella, still in shock and mourning her friend, became thoroughly angry and repulsed by Gully, calling him a ghoul. Despite her revulsion, she took him to the ship. We were then witness to a brief scene, the aftermath of the raid. Dagenham explained to Sheffield and Prestane that he had been tracking Foyle since their escape from Gouffre Martel, and are now going to follow him to the Nomad to recover Prestane's bullion and the pyre, which Foyle still doesn't know about. Next, we saw Gully and Jisbella already aboard Sam's ship and on their way to the Nomad. Still repulsed by Foyle and barely speaking to him, she helped him remove his bandages after the allotted time. Foyle impatiently bandied words with Bell before seeing Baker's successful work. The tattoo had indeed been erased, but he noted a change and didn't quite recognize himself. Jisbella answered that he's seeing the brute that he's become. She relentlessly taunted him, repeatedly calling him a ghoul and a beast. They fought briefly, but their rage turned quickly from anger to desire once again. Jisbella asked Gully why he lied to her. He answered that he couldn't help himself, that something inside him takes over and his mission of vengeance becomes the only thing that matters. He feared letting anything jeopardize it, even sharing a little of the enormous wealth they might find. Jisbella concluded the episode, saying that Gully is a man completely possessed. Will they find Nomad? Will they find the platinum bullion? Will Dagenham recapture it? Find out in episode 8 of The Stars, My Destination by Alfred Bester. At that moment, the radar alarm in the forward control cabin burst upon them, unwelcome and warning.
Destination 0.
Foyle, no longer relaxed, once more possessed, shot forward into the control cabin. So he returned to the freak planetoid in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, the Sargasso planet manufactured of rock and wreckage and the spoils of space disasters salvaged by the scientific people. He returned to the home of Joseph and his people, who had tattooed Nomad across his face and scientifically mated him to the girl named Moira. Foyle overran the asteroid with the sudden fury of a Vandal raid. He came blasting out of space, braked with a spume of flame from the forward jets, and kicked the weekender into a tight spin around the junk heap. They whirled around, passing the blackened ports, the big hatch from which Joseph and his scientific people emerged to collect the drifting debris of space, and the new crater Foyle had torn out of the side of the asteroid in his first plunge back to Terra. They whipped past the giant patchwork windows of the asteroid greenhouse and saw hundreds of faces peering out at them, tiny white dots mottled with tattooing.
So, I didn't murder them. They've pulled back into the asteroid, probably living deep inside while they get the rest repaired.
Will you help them, Gully?
Why?
You did the damage.
To hell with them. I got my own problems. But it's a relief. They won't be bothering us.
He circled the asteroid once more and brought the weekender down in the mouth of the new crater.
We'll work from here. Get into a suit, Belle. Let's go. Let's go!
He drove her, mad with impatience. He drove himself. They corked up in their spacesuits, left the weekender, and went sprawling through the debris in the crater into the bleak bowels of the asteroid. It was like squirming through the crawling tunnels of giant wormholes. Foyle switched on his microwave suit set and spoke to Belle.
Be easy to get lost in here. Stay with me. Stay close.
Where are we going, Gully?
After Nomad. I remember they were cementing her into the asteroid when I left. Don't remember where. Have to find her.
The passages were airless and their progress was soundless, but the vibrations carried through metal and rock. They paused once for breath alongside the pitted hull of an ancient warship. As they leaned against it, they felt the vibrations of signals from within, a rhythmic knocking. Foyle smiled grimly.
That's Joseph and the scientific people inside, requesting a few words. I'll give them an evasive answer.
He pounded twice on the hull.
And now a personal message for my wife.
His face darkened. He smote the hull angrily and turned away.
Come on, let's go.
But as they continued the search, the signals followed them. It became apparent that the outer periphery of the asteroid had been abandoned. The tribe had withdrawn to the center. Then, far down a shaft rod of beaten aluminum, a hatch opened. Light blazed forth, and Joseph appeared in an ancient spacesuit fashioned of glass cloth. He stood in the clumsy sack, his devil face staring, his hands clutched in supplication, his devil mouth making motions. Foyle stared at the old man, took a step toward him, and then stopped, fists clenched, throat working as fury arose within him. And Jisbella, looking at Foyle, cried out in horror.
Gully! My God, your face!
The old tattooing had returned to his face, blood red against the pallor of the skin, scarlet instead of black, truly a tiger mask in color as well as design. Foyle ignored her and stood glaring at Joseph while the old man made beseeching gestures, motioned to them to enter the interior of the asteroid, and then disappeared. Only then did Foyle turn to Jisbella.
What? What did you say?
Through the clear globe of the helmet, she could see his face distinctly. And as the rage within Foyle died away, Jisbella saw the blood-red tattooing fade and disappear.
Did you see that joker? That was Joseph. Did you see him begging and pleading after what he did to me? What did you say?
Your face, Gully. I know what's happened to your face.
What are you talking about?
You wanted something that would control you, Gully. Well, you've got it. Your face. You'll have to learn control now, Gully. You'll never be able to give way to emotion. Any emotion, because...
But he was staring past her, and suddenly he shot up the aluminum shaft with a yell. He jerked to a stop before an open door and began to whoop in triumph. The door opened into a tool locker, 4 by 4 by 9. There were shelves in the locker and a jumble of old provisions and discarded containers. It was Foyle's coffin aboard the Nomad. Joseph and his people had succeeded in sealing the wreck into their asteroid before the Holocaust of Foyle's escape had rendered further work impossible. The interior of the ship was virtually untouched. Foyle took Jisbella's arm and dragged her on a quick tour of the ship, and finally to the purser's locker, where Foyle tore at the windrows of wreckage and debris until he disclosed a massive steel face, blank and impenetrable.
We've got a choice. Either we tear the safe out of the hull and carry it back to Terra where we can work on it, or we open it here. I vote for here. Maybe Dagenham was lying. All depends on what tools Sam has in the Weekender anyway. Come back to the ship, Bill.
He never noticed her silence and preoccupation until they were back aboard the Weekender and he had finished his urgent search for tools.
Nothing. There isn't a hammer or a drill aboard. Nothing but gadgets for opening bottles and rations.
Jisbella didn't answer. She never took her eyes off his face.
Why are you staring at me like that?
I'm fascinated.
By what?
I'm going to show you something, Gully.
What?
How much I despise you.
Jisbella slapped him twice. Stung by the blows, Foyle started up furiously. Jisbella picked up a hand mirror and held it before him.
Look at yourself, Gully. Look at your face.
He looked. He saw the old tattoo marks flaming blood red under the skin, turning his face into a scarlet and white tiger mask. He was so chilled by the appalling spectacle that his rage died at once, and simultaneously the mask disappeared.
My God. Oh my God.
I had to make you lose your temper to show you.
What's it mean, Belle? Did Baker goof the job?
I don't think so. I think you've got scars under the skin, Gully, from the original tattooing and then from the bleaching. Needle scars. They don't show normally, but they do show blood red when your emotions take over and your heart begins pumping blood. When you're furious or frightened or passionate or possessed. Do you understand?
He shook his head, still staring at his face, touching it in bewilderment.
You said you wished you could carry me in your pocket to stick pins in you when you lose control. You've got something better than that, Gully. Or worse, poor darling. You've got your face.
No. No!
You can never lose control, Gully. You'll never be able to drink too much, eat too much, love too much, hate too much. You'll have to hold yourself with an iron grip.
No. It can be fixed. Baker can do it, or somebody else. I can't walk around afraid to feel anything because it'll turn me into a freak.
I don't think this can be fixed, Gully.
Skin graft.
No, the scars are too deep for graft. You'll never get rid of this stigma, Gully. You'll have to learn to live with it.
Foyle flung the mirror from him in sudden rage, and again the blood-red mask flared up under his skin. He lunged out of the main cabin to the main hatch, where he pulled his spacesuit down and began to squirm into it.
Gully, where are you going? What are you going to do?
Get tools. Tools for the safe.
Where?
In the asteroid. They've got dozens of warehouses stuffed with tools from wrecked ships. They have to be tools there. Everything I need. Don't come with me. There may be trouble. How is my goddamn face now? Showing it? By Christ, I hope there is trouble.
He corked his suit and went into the asteroid. He found a hatch separating the habited core from the outer void. He banged on the door. He waited and banged again, and continued the imperious summons until at last the hatch was opened. Arms reached out and yanked him in, and the hatch was closed behind him. It had no airlock. He blinked in the light and scowled at Joseph and his innocent people gathering before him, their faces hideously decorated. and he knew that his own face must be flaming red and white, for he saw Joseph start, and he saw the devil mouth shape the syllables, Nomad. Foyle strode through the crowd, scattering them brutally. He smashed Joseph with a backhand blow from his mailed fist. He searched through the inhabited corridors, recognizing them dimly, and he came at last to the chamber, half natural cave, half antique hull, where the tools were stored. He rooted and ferreted, gathering up drills, diamond bits, acids, thermites, crystallines, dynamite jellies, and fuses. In the gently revolving asteroid, the gross weight of the equipment was reduced to less than 100 pounds. He lumped it into a mass, roughly bound it together with cable, and started out of the store cave. Joseph and his scientific people were waiting for him, like fleas waiting for a wolf. They darted at him, and he battered through them, harried, delighted, savage. The armor of his spacesuit protected him from their attacks, and he went down the passages, searching for a hatch that would lead out into the void. Jisbella's voice came to him, tinny on the earphones and agitated.
Gully, can you hear me? This is Belle. Gully, listen to me.
Go ahead.
Another ship came up 2 minutes ago. It's drifting on the other side of the asteroid.
What?
It's marked with yellow and black colors, like a hornet.
Dagenham's colors.
Then we've been followed.
What else? Dagenham's probably had a fix on me ever since we busted out of Gopher Martel. I was a fool not to think of it. We've got to work fast, Belle. Cork up in his suit and meet me aboard Nomad. The purser's room. Go, girl!
But Gully...
Sign off. They may be monitoring a waveband. Go!
He drove through the asteroid, reached a barrel hatch, broke through the guard before it, smashed it open, and went into the void of the outer passages. The scientific people were too desperate getting the hatch closed to stop him, but he knew they would follow him. They were raging. He hauled the bulk of his equipment through twists and turns to the wreck of the Nomad. Jisbella was waiting for him in the purser's room. She made a move to turn on her microwave set, and Foyle stopped her. He placed his helmet against hers and shouted,
No shortwave. They'll be monitoring and they locate us by DF. You can hear me like this, can't you?
She nodded.
All right. We got maybe an hour before Dagenham locates us. We got maybe an hour before Joseph and his mob come after us. We're in a hell of a jam. We gotta work fast.
She nodded again.
No time to open the safe and transport the bullion.
If it's there.
Well, Dagenham's here, isn't he? That's proof it's there. We'll have to cut the whole safe out of the Nomad and get into the Weekender. Then we blast.
But...
Just listen to me and do what I say. Go back to the Weekender. Empty it out. Jettison everything we don't need. All supplies except emergency rations.
Why?
Because I don't know how many tons this safe weighs, and the ship may not be able to handle it when we come back to gravity. We've got to make allowances in advance. It'll mean a tough trip back, but it's worth it. Strip the ship. Fast. Go, girl, go!
He pushed her away and, without another glance in her direction, attacked the safe. It was built into the structural steel of the hull, a massive steel ball some 4 feet in diameter. It was welded to the strakes and ribs of the Nomad at 12 different spots. Foyle attacked each weld in turn with acids, drills, thermite, and refrigerants. He was operating on the theory of structural strain, to heat, freeze, and etch the steel until its crystalline structure was distorted and its physical strength destroyed. He was fatiguing the metal. Jisbella returned, and he realized that 45 minutes had passed. He was dripping and shaking, but the globe of the safe hung free of the hull, with a dozen rough knobs protruding from its surface. Foyle motioned urgently to Jisbella, and she strained her weight against the safe with him. They could not budge its mass together. As they sank back in exhaustion and despair, A quick shadow eclipsed the sunlight pouring through the rents in the Nomad hull. They stared up. A spaceship was circling the asteroid less than a quarter of a mile off. Foyle placed his helmet against Jisbella's.
Dagenham, looking for us. Probably got a crew down here combing for us, too. As soon as they talk to Joseph, they'll be here.
Oh, Gully.
We've still got a chance. Maybe they won't spot Sam's weekender until they've made a couple of revolutions. It's hidden in that crater. Maybe we can get the safe aboard in the meantime.
How, Gully?
I don't know. Damn it, I don't know!
He pounded his fists together in frustration.
Finished.
Couldn't we blast it out?
Blast? What, bombs instead of brains? Is this mental McQueen speaking?
Listen, blast it out with something explosive. That would act like a rocket jet. Give it a thrust.
Yeah, I got that. But then what? How do we get it into the ship, girl? Can't keep blasting. Haven't got time.
No, we bring the ship to the safe.
What?
Blast the safe straight out into space, then bring the ship around and let the safe sail right into the main hatch. Like catching a ball in your hat, see?
He saw.
By God, Bill, we can do it.
Foyle leapt to the pile of equipment and began sorting out sticks of dynamite, gelatin, fuses, and caps.
We'll have to use the shortwave. One of us stays with the safe. One of us pilots the ship. Man with the safe talks the man with the ship into position, right?
Right. You'd better pilot, Gully. I'll do the talking.
He nodded, fixing explosive to the face of the safe, attaching caps and fuses. Then he placed his helmet against hers.
Vacuum fuses, Bell. Timed for 2 minutes. When I give the word by shortwave, just pull off the fuse heads and get the hell out of the way, right?
Right.
Stay with the safe. Once you talk that into the ship, come right after it. Don't wait for anything. It's going to be close.
He thumped her shoulder and returned to the weekender. He left the outer hatch open and the inner door of the airlock as well. The ship's air emptied out immediately. Airless and stripped by Jisbella, it looked dismal and forlorn. Foyle went directly to the controls, sat down, and switched on his microwave set.
Stand by. I'm coming out now.
He ignited the jets, blew the laterals for 3 seconds, and then the forwards. The weekender lifted easily, shaking debris from her back and sides like a whale surfacing. As she slid up and back, Foyle called,
Dynamite! Bell, now!
There was no blast. There was no flash. A new crater opened in the asteroid below him, and a flower of rubble sprang upward, rapidly outdistancing a dull steel ball that followed leisurely, turning in a weary spin.
Ease off.
Jisbella's voice came cold and competent over the earphones.
You're backing too fast. And incidentally, trouble's arrived.
He braked with the rear jets, looking down in alarm. The surface of the asteroid was covered with a swarm of hornets. They were Dagenham's crew in yellow and black banded spacesuits. They were buzzing around a single figure in white that dodged and spun and eluded them. It was Jisbella.
Steady as you go.
He could hear how hard she was breathing.
Ease off a little. Roll a quarter turn.
He obeyed her almost automatically, still watching the struggle below. The flank of the weekender cut off any view of the trajectory of the safe as it approached him, but he could still see Jisbella and Dagenham's men. She ignited her suit rocket. He could see the tiny spurt of flame shoot out from her back, and came sailing up from the surface of the asteroid. A score of flames burst out from the backs of Dagenham's men as they followed. Half a dozen dropped the pursuit of Jisbella and came up after the weekender.
It's going to be close, Gully.
Jisbella was gasping now, but her voice was still steady.
Dagenham's ship came down on the other side, but they've probably signaled him by now, and he'll be on his way. Hold your position, Gully. About 10 seconds now.
The Hornets closed in and engulfed the tiny white suit.
Foyle! Can you hear me, Foyle?
Dagenham's voice came in fuzzily and finally cleared.
This is Dagenham calling on your band. Come in, Foyle.
Bell, can you get clear of them?
Hold your position, Gully. There she goes. It's a hole-in-one, son.
A crushing shock racked the weekender as the safe, moving slowly but massively, rammed into the main hatch. At the same moment, the white-suited figure broke out of the cluster of yellow wasps. It came rocketing up to the weekender, hotly pursued.
Come on, Bell. Come on. Come on, girl. Come on!
As Jisbella disappeared from sight behind the flank of the weekender, Foyle set controls and prepared for top acceleration.
Foyle, will you answer me? This is Dagenham speaking.
To hell with you, Dagenham. Give me the word when you're aboard, Bell, and hold on.
I can't make it, Gully. I can't get aboard. The safe's blocking the hatch. It's wedged in halfway.
Bell!
There's no way in, I tell you. I'm blocked out.
He stared around wildly. Dagenham's men were boarding the hull of the weekender with the menacing purpose of professional raiders. Dagenham's ship was lifting over the brief horizon of the asteroid on a dead course for him. His head began to spin.
Foyle, you're finished. You and the girl. But I'll offer a deal.
Gully, help me. Do something, Gully. I'm lost.
Vorgon!
He closed his eyes and tripped the controls. The tail jets roared. The weekender shook and shuddered forward. It broke free of Dagenham's borders, of Jisbella, of warnings and pleas. It pressed Foyle back into the pilot's chair with a blackout of 10G acceleration, an acceleration that was less pressing, less painful, less treacherous than the passion that drove him. And as he passed from sight, there rose up on his face the blood-red stigmata of his possession. End of episode 8.